The world's first moon landing, a revolutionary event that will change the world. Apollo 11.
It was the year 1969, a year in which the entertainment industry thrived, natural disasters and the war were at their peak, and most significantly, a scientific revolution that would change the course of mankind. Diana Ross, the Jackson 5, Elvis Presley, and the Beatles, some of the many groups of the bands that year. Arising was the Vietnam War, as well as Woodstock, the famous rock festival. Perhaps one of the most important events of the year was the launch of Apollo 11.
Here from CBS News Apollo headquarters at Kennedy Space Center, correspondent Walter Cronkite.
Good morning. It's T-minus 1 hour, 29 minutes, and 53 seconds, and counting in just an hour and a half. If all goes well, Apollo 11 astronauts Armstrong, Aldrin, and Collins are to lift off from Pad 39A out there on the voyage man always has dreamed about. Next stop for them, the moon.
Walter, good morning. Of the more than 3,000 reporters assigned here, at least a third were on hand before dawn this morning. That is the best indication of all that this is a really big story. Most reporters wouldn't get up early for World War III.
The takeoff of Apollo 11 was so exciting that 3,000 reporters, 400 congressmen and members of the Supreme Court, 20 governors, 40 mayors and representatives of more than 60 nations, and at least 500 citizens gathered on the beach to witness this global event with their friends and family. Not to mention the millions of people who watch the television networks such as BBC in European countries and listen to radios to experience this global historic event.
Perhaps some of NASA's most famous astronauts ever, Team Apollo 11.
Neil Armstrong, age 38, a pilot, engineer, and professor, also the first man to step foot on the lunar surface.
Buzz Aldrin, pilot of the lunar module, was the second man to step foot on the moon.
Michael Collins. He piloted the command spacecraft alone in lunar orbit until Armstrong and Aldrin returned to it for the trip back to Earth.
Before the astronauts could lift off and fly to the moon, they had to undergo a series of tests, experiments, and training. Although the men were highly trained pilots and had flown with Gemini missions, a NASA program, they had to undergo serious preparation. Different techniques were used in training, such as tying the men to walls and practicing their plans of what to do on the moon. Since no one had been on the moon before, countless hours and days were spent preparing for this historic event.
On October 4, 1957, the Soviet Union challenged the United States to a competition of technological and ideological superiority with the launch of the world's first artificial satellite, Sputnik 1. For about 15 years, the United States and Russia were rivals in attaining firsts in space exploration. It's a given that the United States beat Russia in the space race with the landing of Apollo 11.
20 seconds and counting. T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11.
On May 21, 1961, President at the time, John F. Kennedy, challenged NASA to reach the moon before the decade ended before 1970. Unfortunately, JFK was not able to witness Apollo 11 due to his assassination in 1963. In honor, millions watched in large crowds around the Kennedy Space Center in Orsino, Florida.
July 20th, 1969. Landing Apollo 11.
Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
Roger, Tranquility. We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. Thanks a lot.
The people had mixed emotions, mostly happiness and relief.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Okay, I'm going to leave that 1 foot up there and both hands down about the 4th rung up. There you go. Surface appears to be very, very fine-grained as you get close to it. It's almost like a powder.
The plaque reading.
We'll read the plaque that's on the front landing gear of this LEM. There's 2 hemispheres, one showing each of the 2 hemispheres of Earth. Underneath it says, "Here men from the planet Earth first set foot upon the moon, July 1969.
The American flag.
Today, many people say that sometimes at night, if you look close enough, you can see the footprints on the moon. But if you look even closer, you can see the pride of our nation, the American flag. It has been 44 years after the first moon landing, and today one of the most iconic memories of Apollo 11 is placing the American flag on the moon. This is a significant event because it marks the greatest achievement that revolutionized not only our world, but the scientific world too.
For every American, this has to be the proudest day of our lives. And for people all over the world, I am sure they too join with America in recognizing what an immense feat this is. Because of what you have done, the heavens have become a part of man's world.
Most of us didn't believe we would land on Apollo 11. Did people told you that? In their opinion, that they thought we would make it the first time? I didn't believe we would ever land the first time. But we did. It was so intense that I don't think most people really fully realized what we did.
The journey back home.
On July 24, 1969, the Apollo 11 crew ejected from their spacecraft Columbia and landed in the Pacific Ocean at 12:50 p.m. The prime recovery ship, the USS Hornet, rescued the astronauts after their rough landing and were flown back to headquarters. It was official. John F. Kennedy's challenge to America was completed.
The landing back on Earth was not quite as smooth as the takeoff. This was due to the fact that Apollo 11 landed with less fuel than the previous missions, which not to mention had failed.
Now that the Apollo 11 crew had landed safely back to headquarters, the workers and staff that took part in Apollo 11 celebrated the success of the mission by waving the American flag. After 8 days of their journey from land and moon, the astronauts returned home to greet President Richard Nixon and their loved ones, especially their wives, a truly memorable moment for the men.
Neil Armstrong could not have said it any better. The Apollo 11 mission was one small step for man, but one giant leap for mankind. After the entire world saw the mission that many thought was impossible become reality, it opened a whole new land of wonders. Since that day, there's been a common phrase: if we can send a man to the moon, why can't we ... The blank being filled in with a task that would be slightly difficult. Many expect this mission to greatly impact the scientific world only and mark a beginning for extravagant technology. Of course it did. However, the greatest impact of this mission was that it changed the way the entire world thinks. From that day on, the word impossible was not a part of mankind's vocabulary. It inspired everyone to dream bigger. Many began to search for cures of fatal diseases, continuing to advance technology, and so on. All in all, these attempts of achieving such great things led us to our world today, where everything is so advanced because people were inspired and took action with the mindset that because we were capable of sending man to the moon, we are then capable of accomplishing any task.